I am a Switch 2 owner, as a lot of you know, and when you're a Switch 2 owner, you realize that there's not a lot of games yet. A lot of re-releases of like games that I already have. Like I don't care to get the performance upgrades for Breath of the Wild unless I'm like going to play it again. Then I'll obviously play it in 4K, 60 FPS or whatever, gladly. But other than that, like, yeah, I don't care. I'm not going to care much about the Switch 2 upgrades until Kirby comes out, and the new games have been very sparse. Still pretty good release window, but it's just, I'm not blaming Nintendo here. It's just the fact that the console is so new. We have Mario Kart World, which is kind of dying. That's kind of Nintendo's fault. And then Donkey Kong Bonanza, one of the best Mario games ever. Definitely the best Donkey Kong game ever. But that's besides the point. I decided to pick up a few more games. I got for the Switch 2, some more third parties like Fast Fusion and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4 remake. And one of those titles I picked up recently is one that had held my interest since the Game Awards, was the Shadow Labyrinth, which was apparently like based on a Pac-Man episode of some TV show. I don't fully know the details. I just saw the trailer at the Game Awards and I thought it looked interesting. This kind of Metroidvania where you're playing with this little like demon Pac-Man thing called Puck as your little buddy who can like absorb powers from the bosses and stuff like that, as well as having like little platforming segments where you can play as Pac-Man. So I picked it up on Switch, actually, because they're not doing a Switch 2 physical edition since it's only $30, and they don't want to spend half of that on a 64 gigabyte game cartridge, but they also don't want to do a game key card because that's, not fun. So they just released a Switch physical, and they made the upgrade pack free, which is nice. The game is still on the cartridge, but you can still play it on Switch 2 with the benefits that come with playing on Switch 2. It's only a couple megabytes. It's good. It's great. Until I played the game, and I spent like 4 or so hours with this game. I'm sorry, I just can't. The Pac-Man thing made me think it was going to be more unique, but everything just feels so uninspired about this game. The swordsman, number 8, is a silent protagonist, so there's no, like, personality there, especially because he's covered in a cloak, so we don't really see, like, the actual, like, personality through the character design. The enemies in this game just have this god-awful art style that the new Ghosts and Ghouls games had, which that was only $20, and the gameplay was more fun, so it was more excusable there. But still, the limbs just are all like independent from each other, and they just don't feel like they're part of a cohesive character. Even though they're enemies, I at least want them to look good. None of the enemies look good. The combat is very derivative. You pretty much just have this like 3-slash thing, and you can, of course there are upgrades, so I'm sure like down the line the combat gets more impressive. But if the game isn't fun as is, I don't want to grind for 10 hours for the game to, like, actually be fun. The Pac-Man segments are, like, cool in theory, but, like, Pac-Man is atrocious to control here. He's always, like, going at, like, an inconvenient... I don't know how to describe it, but he's always Puck as he's called, not Pac-Man, is always going at an inconsistent speed. It's hard to, like, aim when you're jumping, when you're trying to attack enemies and you're trying to collect pellets, which acts as like currency in this world. The jumping is just never there. It's always too fast and it's always too finicky. He's just not fun to control. The worlds aren't inspired. They look pretty, but nothing about this feels like Pac-Man. And I know they're going for like a different style here, but I would have expected at least some more flair if they're gonna make a game such a strange game, such a strange genre for Pac-Man. I'd figured they'd incorporate more elements of Pac-Man into it, but no, they really didn't. Some of the enemies are like named after like one of the bosses is like named G-Host, and it's supposed to be like a Clyde, a Rip, but it's like some sort of spaceship thing. Like, I think there'd be more references and more allusions to the actual Pac-Man world than there is. Because if we're making a goofy a game like this, of this stature, of this genre, and you're making it Pac-Man, I'd expect at least a little more fan service, a little more nods and stuff, a little more enemy designs that, like, invoke that, maybe some environments that have like little things in the background, but I'm not seeing any of this there. It doesn't feel like I'm playing a Pac-Man platformer, and the few times I am playing as Puck, he's just atrocious to control. And I gave this game like 5 hours or so. I'm sorry. I'm not playing a 30-hour game that is just not fun to me. And if you enjoy this game, if you enjoy what this game does, I am not flaming you. Live your truth. If you enjoy this game, I'm really happy for you, but I just cannot stand it. That on top of the fact that it doesn't even run that great on Switch 2. It doesn't even run that great. It looks good. The game looks good, but it can't even reach a stable 60 frames per second. When there's too many enemies on screen, or when you're going back and forth between different parts of the map, it'll stutter. It'll be at 60 and it'll just dip. It'll dip as low to like 40 sometimes, and it's just so jarring. It's so jarring. And the Switch version has a stable 60 frames per second, but unfortunately, there's no way for me to downgrade and then continue the same save file, which I shouldn't even have to consider, because why am I even buying this new console if I can't get games to run at least 1080p, 60 frames per second? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I said this in my last video, but I just can't handle lower frame rates anymore, especially when you're shelling out this much money for what's supposed to be PS4 level hardware, and you're getting these dips on these simpler 2D games with more derivative art styles. That's nothing crazy. I could understand if it's like a crazy game, but it's really not. It should be able to target 60 because the Nintendo Switch version can target 60 perfectly. So the fact that it can't on Nintendo Switch 2 is very jarring. But at least I got to say I played some non-Nintendo games this year. Of course, I've played much better non-Nintendo games this year, like Tony Hawk's Skater 3+4 and Doom: The Dark Ages, but I never usually play the non-Nintendo games the year they come out, because I usually don't have the latest Sony console or the latest Microsoft console, the latest Xbox or PlayStation. So at least I got to do that this year, if nothing else. And yeah, I wish I could get my $30 back.